22 below zero. That is what the thermometer outside the lodge read on a January morning on the northern plains, and I had just slept 8 hours, warm, inside a shelter with walls thinner than the canvas coat you wear to check the mail. No propane heater. There was no Arctic sleeping bag under me, no foam pad, not $1 of the gear the sporting goods store swears your life depends on. Just poles, a covering, a small fire, and about 10,000 years of knowing why it works. Our people out on the plains wintered in country where 40 below zero came around every year and stayed a while, and they raised children and grew old out there doing it. Today I am going to show you how to build a shelter, the way the old ones built it, that will keep you alive at 40 below using nothing but what the winter woods hand you for free. But stay with me all the way to the end, because the thing that actually keeps you alive in that shelter is not the fire, and it is not the walls. It is a gap the old ones left open on purpose, in the exact spot where every modern camper seals his shelter shut. And what moving air does inside those walls is the whole difference between sleeping warm and freezing to death 3 feet from your own fire. I'm Wes Kingfisher. I'm 64 years old. I'm of Cherokee heritage, and I was raised by my grandmother Ada in the hills of eastern Oklahoma, where I still live today. My grandfather and my uncles taught me the woods, and 40 years on the powwow trail taught me the rest, from the northern plains to the desert southwest. I have slept winter nights in a hide lodge at 20 below and woke up warm. The old ones never wrote this down, so listen close. Every winter, somewhere in this country, search and rescue pulls a body out of a $400 tent. That is a hard thing to say, but it is true, and it is worth understanding why. Because that fellow usually did everything the modern way. He bought the gear. He zipped the nylon tent tight against the cold. He trusted the label. And the label never told him about the 2 thieves that do the actual killing in deep cold. The first thief is the ground. Frozen, snow-covered ground will pull the heat out of a man's body many times faster than cold air ever will, and no jacket in the store stops it. The second thief is his own breath. Every hour of the night, your body puts water into the air around you, and in a sealed-up shelter that water condenses on the cold walls, soaks into everything you own, and freezes. Wet clothing at 40 below is a death sentence, and the man sealed himself in with it. The old ones knew both thieves by name. They built shelters out of poles and bark and snow that beat both of them every winter for 100 generations. And I will come back to that open gap I mentioned, the one the old ones refused to close, because that gap is how they beat the second thief, and it is the part everybody gets wrong. First, though, let me tell you where all of this is written down. Now, what I'm going to teach you today is one page out of a book I put together called The Native American Way, 101 Remedies, Skills, and Recipes that kept my people alive for 10,000 years. It is the knowledge my grandmother Ada and the elders of Indian country handed me around 1,000 fires, written down plain, step by step, before it is gone. This winter shelter has its own page in there, alongside the backyard plants the old ones used and exactly how they used them. The teas and salves from Ada's kitchen, the wild foods and when to gather them, and the recipes that fed the people through every hard winter. It is $17 right now, marked down from $47, which is less than 1 tank of gas, for knowledge that was 10,000 years in the testing. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up. Give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you're watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. All right, let's go build a shelter. And the first step happens before you cut a single pole. The old ones picked the campsite before they did anything else, and they picked it the way a careful man picks a seat at a card table with the odds in mind. You want the edge of a stand of evergreens, spruce, or fir, or cedar, thick enough to break the wind, never the bottom of a valley. Cold air is heavy, and at night it slides downhill and pools in the low ground the way water would. And that pool can sit 10 or 15 degrees colder than the slope right above it. Never the top of a ridge either, because wind is the fastest heat thief there is. You want the middle ground. Find a bench on the south-facing side of a slope, tucked into the tree line, with the doorway aimed away from the prevailing wind. Stand there a minute before you commit. Feel where the air moves against your face. Our people on the plains read a winter campsite the way you would read a map, and half of surviving the night was decided right there, before one pole came down. Now the frame. What we are building is the winter wedge, a steep A-frame shelter our people up in the North Woods could raise in a single afternoon, and it is close cousin to the bark lodges that stood through blizzards for whole seasons. Cut a ridgepole, about 10 feet long, stout as your wrist or thicker. Lash 2 pairs of shorter poles into 2 tripods. Set one end of the ridgepole into each tripod fork, about 5 feet high at the front and sloping down to 4 feet at the back. Take your time with those lashings. There is no rush, and a frame that wobbles now will fail under snow load at 2 in the morning. Then lean ribs against both sides of the ridge, poles running from the ground up to the ridgepole, spaced every 8 to 12 inches. 8 to 12 inches, about a handspan and a half, no wider. And make those sides steep, better than 45 degrees, so snow slides off instead of piling on. Here's the thinking underneath it. A winter shelter should fit like a coat, not like a barn. Every cubic foot of air inside is air your little fire has to heat. So you build it just long enough to lie down in and just tall enough to sit up in, and not 1 inch more. For the skin of the shelter, the old ones used whatever the land offered. In the North Woods, that was big slabs of bark, spruce, or birch, laid on like roof shingles, starting at the bottom edge and working upward so every slab overlaps the one below it and sheds meltwater out and away. If you have no bark, evergreen boughs do the job, laid tips pointing down, at least 8 inches thick on the walls, 8 inches deep, and thicker is better. Then comes the part that surprises folks. You bank snow up against the bottom 3 feet of both walls, packing it firm with the flat of your hands. People hear that and figure I have lost my mind, piling the cold stuff onto the shelter. But snow is mostly trapped air, and trapped, still air is about the finest insulation on this earth. That is the very reason our people in the far north could build a whole house out of snow and sit inside it comfortable while a blizzard howled. The snow bank also seals the wall bottoms against wind, all except one spot. You leave one low opening unbanked and unblocked, and I will show you exactly where it goes and exactly why before we are done. because that opening is the secret I promised you at the start. Next comes the bed, and do not skip this part even if you forget everything else, because the first thief, the ground, gets beaten right here. Cut evergreen boughs, spruce, or hemlock or fir. Lay them inside the shelter like shingles, stems down, soft tips up. Keep layering until the bed stands 12 inches deep, 12 inches, a full foot, because the minute you lie down on it, it packs to about 4, and 4 inches of springy boughs is the line between a bed and a slow leak in your body heat. Out on the plains, where boughs were scarce, our people did the same job with dried grass and layered hides, and the principle never changed in 1,000 miles. Get the body up off the frozen ground and put dead air underneath it. A man on a foot of boughs with 1 blanket sleeps warmer than a man on bare ground with 3. My grandfather told me that in the hills of eastern Oklahoma when I was 9 years old, and I have tested it since in country a whole lot colder than ours. Now the fire, and this is where the modern instinct kills people a second time, because the instinct says bigger fire, warmer night. Wrong. There's an old saying around the fires of Indian country that one man builds a big fire and has to sit way back from it, and a wiser man builds a small fire and sits close. It survived all these years because it is true. You want a small hardwood fire, oak or hickory, burned down to steady coals, no wider across than a dinner plate, set at the open front of the wedge about an arm's length from where you sleep. A fire that size throws even heat all night on an armload of wood, and it does not spit sparks into your bow walls. 2 feet behind it, stack a reflector, a low wall of green logs or packed snow about 3 feet tall, so the heat that would have run off into the dark bounces back across your bed instead. And you keep that fire small for one more reason, the biggest reason of all, the one I have been promising you since the first minute of this video. That fire is breathing. And what it breathes, and where that breath goes, is the whole secret of this shelter. So here's the payoff. Every modern camper at 40 below does the same fatal thing. He seals his shelter airtight, because tight feels warm. And by doing it, he locks the 2 killers inside with himself, smoke and moisture. A fire eats air. Sealed in, it fills the space with smoke and with carbon monoxide, a gas with no color and no smell that takes men quietly in their sleep. And even with no fire at all, a sleeping man's lungs and skin put close to a quart of water into the air over one long winter night. Sealed in, that water has nowhere to go. It condenses on the cold walls, drips onto the blankets, soaks the clothes and freezes, and now he is wet at 40 below. The old ones beat all of it with one deliberate gap. Down low at the front, on the side the wind does not strike, they left an opening about the size of 2 fists, unbanked, unblocked, open all night. And up at the peak, above the fire, they left the smoke gap open too. Those 2 openings turned the whole shelter into a slow, living chimney. Cold, clean air creeps in low through the gap. The fire catches it and warms it and sends it rising. The warm air climbs up past your bed, gathers the smoke and every bit of that deadly moisture along the way, and slips out through the peak. The walls stay dry. The blankets stay dry. The fire burns clean, and you breathe clean air until morning. The shelter takes one slow breath all night long, and that breath is what keeps you alive. That is why a shelter full of gaps kept our people warm through 10,000 winters, while sealed nylon tents have put strong men in the ground. The old ones did not just know the trick. They knew the why. They always knew the why. And that is exactly the kind of thing my grandmother's people handed down for free. Fire to fire, voice to voice, until the chains got broken and nobody wrote it down. So I wrote it down. There are 101 of them in the Native American way: the shelters, the fire skills, the backyard plants, the teas and salves from Ada's kitchen, the wild foods, and the old recipes written out plain, step by step, so they do not die with me. $17, down from $47 for what the old ones paid 10,000 years to learn. Now go ahead and grab your phone and open up your camera, the same one you use to take pictures. Point it at that square code on your screen and hold it steady for a second. A little link will pop up. Give it a tap, and it will take you straight to the book. And if you are watching on your phone right now, the link is waiting for you right down below in the description. Take your time. There is no rush at all. I'll wait right here. So remember the bones of it. Pick your ground out of the wind. Build it small and steep. Bank the snow. Get 12 inches of boughs under your back. Keep the fire little and close. And let the shelter breathe. Now, tell me in the comments where your people are from. And if there's native blood in your family line, like there is in so many American families, I'd be honored to hear the story. I read every single one. Next time, I'm going to show you the fire our people built on the trap line that feeds itself all night long. 8 hours of steady heat without getting up once to tend it, and the whole trick is in how you stack the logs before you ever strike a spark. Watto, my friends. That means thank you. Walk easy, and I'll see you down the trail.